part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi Roda podcast powered by Cleveland Party Rentals and Newark Auto Body right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out as we always do. He's our leadoff man. He's our Stephen Kwan, right? He's our Kenny Lofton. He's Ty Courts, our outstanding producer. If he's not helping us out, nobody's going to hear this in the podcastosphere. So, Ty, thanks so much for all that you do. And, Michael, we're going to get to those Guardians who just won their 50th game on this Monday night that we're taping our R&R podcast. But the big news of the day in C-Town, it sounds like they haven't officially sent the press release out, but all indications are that the Cleveland Cavaliers have found J.B. Bickerstaff's replacement after a long search, a thorough search, and they are going to go with Kenny Atkinson, who the past few years was Steve Kerr's assistant at Golden State, won a ring there with the Warriors as an assistant, but also has had coaching experience with the Brooklyn Nets for about 4 seasons. So, Michael Reghi, your thoughts on Kenny Atkinson being the next bench boss for the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I think the fact that he went out with Steve Kerr the last couple of years, Kenny Roda, hopefully gets Kenny Atkinson very even-keeled once again. Now, we know in the past, we've seen where NBA head coaches, right, got their first opportunity. It wasn't an overt failure, Ken,
right,
during his time with the Brooklyn Nets. I tell you, I like one thing. Both Jared Allen and Karis LeVert, certainly two of the Cavaliers' top 6 players, right?
Yep.
Maybe 5 players, but be that as it may, played extensively. Jared Allen and Karis LeVert played extensively for Kenny Atkinson during his Brooklyn Nets stint. In fact, the one of the year that both of those guys played extremely well for Atkinson and the Nets, they made the playoffs. Yeah, they got beat in the first round, but so, Ken, just that alone, I don't know if that came into the equation when Dan Gilbert was doing the finality of the thing, but I got to tell you, I do like the fact that 2 of the Cavaliers' prominent guys have been with him and played well for him. Now, come next May, might that not mount to a hill of beans? Maybe not. But first blush, I like, again, that a couple of the Cavaliers' important players are familiar with him and have had success with him.
Yeah, and when you look back at his time as the head coach of the Nets, 2016 through 2020, 118-90 was his record in almost 4 seasons with the Brooklyn Nets. 1-4 in the playoffs, as you mentioned. They bowed out in the first round of the Philadelphia 76ers in the 2018-19 season. They went 42-40. That was his only winning season there, but he improved them, Reg, from 20 wins his first year, right, to 42 wins in his third year. Now, it started to go bad in year number 4, and he resigned, stepped down, whatever it was, and has been an assistant with Steve Kerr the last couple of years, which can't be a bad thing, right?
Nope.
And here's what JT and I were talking about and wondering. You're right about the relationships with both Karis LeVert and Jared Allen. One of the reports I saw, I think it was from maybe Brian Windhorst or Adrian Wojnarowski, one of those two from ESPN, said that the Cavaliers liked his coaching style as far as developing young players, young bigs, like a Jared Allen then, and obviously Evan Mobley comes to mind now with the Cavaliers. And I'm hoping that spending time with Steve Kerr and that, again, they're a little bit bigger than 6'2", 6'1", Mitchell, right, and Garland, but still a backcourt that, what is Clay? 6'6", Steph's like 6'3", 6'4". But it's a shooting backcourt, a scoring backcourt. So I'm hopeful that if Mitchell does stay And everything Kobe Altman is saying is true, that they don't plan on getting rid of any of the big or core four, whatever they want to call it. I'm hopeful that maybe somehow, some way, he'll be able to take some of that offense that Golden State ran, incorporate it with Garland and Mitchell, should they both be back together, and help that offense become better. Because defensively, I think there's already there something that's solid, and you don't need to change much. But defensively, that's what JB was known for, and he established that. Offensively, they need some help, Reg, and that's where I'm hopeful that Kenny Atkinson, through his experience as a head coach, as well as recently as an assistant, might be able to better this offense if all the pieces, parts stay the same.
And for our listeners, and like Kenny said earlier, we greatly appreciate all of you and your support in what we do here on the Press Play Podcast Network. He is known, Kenny Atkinson, Kenny Roda, as an offensive-minded coach.
Okay.
So hopefully now defensively, what's been established and what's been accomplished. Now, hopefully that doesn't take some huge step back. That having been said, though, Atkinson has always done well, and he ran that role with Steve Kerr the last few years,
right?
As he had a greater emphasis with the offense of the Golden State Warriors as an assistant coach. Like we said, now, as a head coach, you gave the numbers, you gave the record, and what have you. There were some good moments.
Yep.
And yet, I know it was what we do on this show, but I mean, I want to find a way, Ken, that he finds a way that if we're going to continue to, have Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland as this main backcourt that's playing 36 plus minutes a night, I just want to see it expanded, Kenny, that it expands to the point where that size doesn't get in the way and become a detriment. Because, we got to be honest now. We got to be honest. That's not what the NBA game is anymore. You might be able to get away with, one smaller backcourt performer. And again, let me add, that is one of your main thrust on a team, right? Which both Mitchell and Garland are. Two of them out there playing 36 to 40 minutes together. That's a tough ask some nights in this NBA. So we'll see if Atkinson's got a way to get around that. Again, his forte is the offensive end of the floor. Let's see, how innovative, Kenny, how creative he can get with this offense. And will Evan Mobley and Jared Allen have a greater emphasis with the offensive game for this team? I mean, I hope so. Because, we've done this before, and I'm not knocking people, but if you're going to ask George Niang and Max Strus to be key offensive guys for you night in and night out, Kenny, I'm not down with that. I'm not down with it because I don't think it works in this NBA.
I agree. You and I are on the same page, and I still believe that they need to make another major move besides hiring Kenny Atkinson as the head coach. If Kobe Altman, Mike Gansey, Dan Gilbert think all they have to do is change the coach, and they're going to challenge the 76ers and the Indiana Pacers, who got to the championship of the Eastern Conference, and of course the world champs, the Boston Celtics, they got another thing coming. You can't just run it back with a different coach, in my opinion. They need to address that wing player because you and I, let's hope we're wrong and Kenny Atkinson can come in if they keep everybody the same and he can make that offense work. I just don't see it, and I see exploits on the defensive end come playoff time where, they'll expose Darius Garland and the physicality of the playoffs worries me with him. So I still think they need to find a small forward that isn't named Isaac Okoro or a shooting guard that isn't named Max Strus to add to this roster to better their chances of challenging the Boston Celtics and the Knicks and whoever else in the Eastern Conference.
Here, because Eastern Conference is not going to get any easier.
Nope.
And I mean, again, offensively, as we know, even with a team that sits around that 50 win mark, which you hope they can continue, if not even add to a little bit, to improve that seeding to the best of their ability in the Eastern Conference. You just said it. We both have some hesitations and reservations about over the course of 82 games, how you're going to keep getting it consistently and where it's going to come from. So you got the first step here.
Yep.
With Kenny Atkinson, again, offensive-minded coach, has been creative. And again, don't forget, he's got a hell of a lot of experience with two of the Cavaliers, in my mind, top 5 players, at worst, top 6, in Jared Allen and Karis LeVert. They've both played for him. They've both run in his system. And if you look at their numbers when they were with him, they both did very, very well.
Here's what I'm hopeful of, though. This is just me. I'm hopeful that he will not stand in the way or challenge Kobe Altman, if you will. If Kobe says, hey, we've got a chance to trade the 20th pick in Wednesday's draft and Jared Allen to get a starting wing, I'm hopeful that Kenny Atkinson won't stand in the way and say, no, I don't want that done. Because to me, and we've talked about this with Mitchell and Garland, they're almost similar players. Now, not totally. I mean, let's be honest. Mitchell's more physical. He's a better scorer, right? He just is. He's the better player. Yeah. But they're ball-dominant guards. So Absolutely. You have two guys that just don't seem to be able to fit together, in my opinion. And the same with Mobley and Jared Allen. So I'm for trading either Jared Allen to get that wing or Darius Garland to get that wing. And I'm hopeful that Kenny Atkinson won't, butt heads with Kobe about that, especially if it's Allen because he had him. I think that what you have to do is you have to put the team ahead of everything else and look at what's best for the team.
I wonder, though, because we've seen this name associated before, and you and I haven't really had a chance. Maybe you have when Kenny and JT show has been down there. I haven't had a chance to really have many conversations at all in a couple of years with Kobe Altman. So with that having been said, it seems to me that another Brooklyn Kenny, Mikal Bridges, right, is a guy that has seemingly been on the Cavaliers' radar.
Now, I'd love him.
Well, that would bring now you'd add LeVert, Allen, and Bridges as 3 guys.
Yeah, well,
3 guys who played and succeeded with Kenny Atkinson.
Yes.
Which would be wild if they did that. But again, now what's that going to cost you? Well,
supposedly they want multiple first-round picks and an all-star player. And
well, you're not going to give him Donovan Mitchell.
Right.
There's the all-star player.
But I'll give him Darius Garland, who was an all-star, and maybe they look at his age and think he can be that guy. I'll give him Jared Allen, who deserved to be an all-star last year, going back to Brooklyn. I'll give him pick number 20 this year and future first round. Hey, if I can get Mikal Bridges from the Nets, the only player, there's 2 players I would not trade for him. I would not give up Donovan Mitchell if he's staying and Evan Mobley. Those are the only 2. Everybody else, if I have to package something, then I'm going out and I'm getting that 3D winner from Nova, right? Who would be the guy that they are sorely lacking. Now, there's another Bridges that is going to be a free agent out of Charlotte by the name of Miles Bridges, and there's no relation there for everybody listening, okay? But he has had some off-the-court domestic issues, but he's been cleared of the most recent set of charges and averaged about 20 points a game this year, 7-8 rebounds, 4 or 5 assists. Now, what's it going to take financially to get that done? I don't know where the Cavaliers stand salary cap wise? Would it have to be a sign and trade? And would I give up Darius Garland to Charlotte in a sign and trade for Miles? Yes. I'll take either one of the bridges now because it's what they need on this team.
Well, certainly, yes. No, with you. There's no argument on that. Either one of the bridges and what they bring offensively to the table, they're both in that 6'7", 6'8" area, correct?
Yep.
So here's my off what we've just said. If they were to run it back, do you feel like the new head coach would be enough for them to take that next step, at least in the Eastern Conference? Or are you wary about that, or certainly just not willing to want to see if that would be the case? In other words, for me, the next step, if I'm Eastern Conference Finals.
Okay.
So that means you got to win a couple of rounds. Now, Kenny, I'm not going to quite go. To me, still, they're not the Boston Celtics.
Nope.
They're not close to the Boston Celtics. So for them to get out of the East and get to the NBA Finals, I just don't think it's realistic. Do we all hope so?
Right.
Well, of course. Yeah. 1,000,000%. There's a big difference between that and what's reality. I don't think that's reality if you're going to have to go beat Boston 4 out of 7 games and then to get to the NBA Finals. However, with this new head coach, if things got progressively improved offensively, Kenny, and let's say, again, let's say, I'm just going to throw numbers out here, okay? Okay, 52-30, 53-29, win 2 rounds, and get to the Eastern Conference Finals where they get beat by the Boston Celtics. Would that give you hope in terms of what the next? Because you got to figure they want Atkinson at least for 4 years here, right?
Right. 3 with a 4th year off, whatever, something like that. Yeah.
3 to 5. 3 would be everything would have to go horribly bad.
Reg, I would have to get that and nothing short of that to be okay with it. Now,
but that's fair.
But I don't think that'll happen.
The assessment I just threw out, if they accomplish that, you feel that's fair to say that Atkinson and the plan put together with this roster are going in the positive direction. That makes everybody feel good.
If they were to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and lose to the Celtics, then that would be a step in the right direction, okay, for the 3rd straight year. So if that were to happen, yes, that would make me feel good. I do not believe, without making any other roster moves, just by changing the coach, that can happen. And here's why. They're not bringing in Phil Jackson. They're not bringing in Greg Popovich. This is a failed head coach who's hopeful that his second time, will be one that is much better than the first time he was a head coach. Let's be honest. I'm not doing cartwheels and somersaults down Euclid, right? Because they got Kenny Atkinson. This isn't one of those grand slam home run hires, in my opinion. He's a good candidate, maybe the best of what was out there with Chris Quinn and James Borrego, Michael Nora, Alex Jensen. But to me, he's not, a coach where I say he's going to, no question in my mind, he's going to make an immediate impact because of his past history. I just don't see that with Kenny Atkinson. So that's why I think they need to make the moves to, change the roster up, break up either Mitchell and Garland or Mobley and Jared Allen.
Understood. All those names that you just mentioned, head coaching candidate. You just mentioned 4 of them, I believe, if not 5.
Yeah.
In addition to Kenny Atkinson, would you have preferred one of those other than Atkinson? Do you wish that the Cavaliers would have went in that other direction as opposed to the way they did?
It's a great question. I tried to do research on this, Reg. I really did. Borrego has now been passed over by both the Lakers and the Cavs, right? So there's some reason why, now he may end up in Detroit. Very possible. He may be the Pistons.
Trajan Langdon, and that's a good call.
Yeah,
I think Tragic Langdon, as you used to call him.
Yeah, very
humorously during
you.
his Cavalier playing days.
Yeah.
I think there's a connect there. I think that's a guy he wants. You're on to something there.
So I wasn't blown away by any of the coaches that were available. So I'm not going to sit here and say this is a horrible hire. I'm not going to sit here and say this is a great hire. I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm hopeful that from his past head coaching experience and being with Steve Kerr, right? Olympic head coach now, right? Four-time championship head coach, player in the I'm hopeful that he's learned something that will make him a better head coach the second time around. But again, this wasn't a slam dunk, home run, touchdown head coaching hire, in my opinion.
That's fair. That's very fair. Yes, the year with Kerr, who we both think very, very highly of.
Yes.
In terms of what he's accomplished and what he is about in roster shaping, developing as an NBA head coach. Number one, and as I said, number two for me, while people may poo-poo it,
right,
it's that Jarrett Allen and Karis LeVert have succeeded with him as their head coach. Both of them played well.
But they didn't win shit, Reg.
No, you're right. You're right.
That's my problem.
They didn't.
He went 1-4 in the playoffs and made the playoffs one time in 4 years. So while they may have had good individual numbers, somebody's got to have good individual numbers on a bad team, you know? So I look at what has he done. His biggest accomplishment, in my opinion, is going from 20 wins to 42 wins in the regular season, talking about Kenny Atkinson. Right. That's his biggest accomplishment. But guess what? JB Bickerstaff did that. In fact, he may have had a bigger jump and actually won a playoff series, and they let him go. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this is a good hire. I just don't know enough about Kenny Atkinson to say, yes, I feel 100%, positive about this. I'm 50-50 on it is how I'm looking at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get where you're at. And of what was out there, again, you had to, and I think probably the fact that, as we all know, I think even though they haven't won in a couple of years, the Golden State Warriors organization is looked upon as one that's very respected and very much enamored by the rest of the NBA, right?
Yep.
The fact that he was with, after the head coaching stint with the Brooklyn Nets, he's been with Steve Kerr and in that organization, and had been a guy that Kerr had him help with putting together, game plans and developmental plans for players. So I got a feeling that, and I believe the Cavaliers owner is the one that made this call, Kenny.
I agree with you.
Do you? I'm glad you do.
I was waiting to see when we were going to go there. Yes.
Okay. And what I mean by that is, see if you agree with this. I think he pretty much told Colby Altman, you're out, get the hell out of the way. Get the hell out of the way. Don't worry about it. Ain't nobody going to know that. But I'm picking this head coach.
Here's what I think.
Wrong, or indifferent, I have reason to believe this is the owner's call here.
It's always been the owner's call,
usually
until he had the health issues, right? Now that he's back being more active and everything. And here's what I think happened, Reg. I think Gansey and Kobe put together their list. They gave their input and said, all right, here's our 4 or 5 best candidates, right? And then Dan probably took that list. Again, guess on my part, speculation on my part.
Not to interrupt you, partner, but do you think Kenny Atkinson was on that list that Gansey put together?
Yes, I do. Yes, okay. I do. Yeah, 100%. I think he was part of that short list. Okay. And I think Dan then went and said, all right, thanks for your input, guys. Okay, you can leave the room now. And then Dan reached out to people he trusts around the league. Somebody said on social media today, he probably reached out to Tom Izzo to get his input, right, on Kenny Atkinson and Steve Kerr, maybe even. So I think Dan then, probably gave the stamp of approval or made the decision himself to say, all right, this is our next hire. And the other thing I'm curious to see, Reg, is who else is going to be a part of this coaching staff? Because the last two hires, the smart move they made, the Cavaliers, right, is this, that they had a backup head coach, if you will, or a head coach in waiting on the staff with David Blatt, Ty Lue, with John Beilein and J.B. Bickerstaff. So I'm curious to see if Kenny Atkinson, if there's another young assistant that is considered a hot head coaching candidate, if they end up bringing him on board and will overpay him to be the number one paid associate head coach in the NBA to have a backup plan.
Certainly a strong possibility.
Right? It's worked the last two times for them, right?
I'm sorry?
It's worked the last two times for them, right?
It has.
With Beilein and JB, and then with Blatt and Ty Lue. So that's what I think when this coaching staff gets finalized. I want to see who that number two man is that sits next to him and is his right-hand man, or eventually the next head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Well, I'm Kenny, going back and along the lines of that, and I know it's how many years down the road now, but I'll be honest with you, I am still extremely surprised that the Cavaliers owner wasn't able to convince his very first choice from his Spartan roots in East Lansing, Tom Izzo, to take this job. Again, I had to take the Cavs head coaching job when he offered it to him.
Right.
Real surprised about that, but
it was a smart move, wasn't it, by Izzo?
Izzo's a smart move, yeah.
Yeah, by not taking the job, because he's a lifer there. Whenever he wants to retire, he'll retire there. So he's got life good. So I couldn't see him giving up the comfortability that he had in East Lansing to take a chance, even though his ego might have been itching to try it.
Well, right. And, he's a demigod. And right, wrong, or indifferent, he hasn't made a Final Four,
right, in a while.
In quite some time now, which I used to think that was the big-time bottom line for Sparty Nation, but it hadn't happened.
No, and he's too old now to be an NBA coach. To me, he's just, that's not going to have, that ship has sailed for Tom.
I agree. And you know what? I hesitate to say something like this, but I can't see the Tom Izzo way working in the NBA.
Me neither. John Beilein, it didn't work. Most of the college guys, Urban Meyer in the NFL, right?
Again, great coaches.
Absolutely.
Great coaches at the level they became great at.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen to that. So we'll see what happens with Kenny Atkinson. We'll see what happens with Donovan Mitchell in the coming days. If he signs that extension, that'll be a major positive for Kenny Atkinson moving forward. And then the front office will have to get to work on what they're going to do with the rest of the roster and free agency. And by the way, Reg, we're taping this on a Monday night. Wednesday night, first round of the draft, 20th pick overall. Cavaliers will have a selection this year. Will they use it to draft somebody and keep, or will they use it to draft somebody and then trade that individual away along with maybe a DG or a Jared Allen to make this roster better? So this is just one of many moves that are probably going to happen this offseason with the Cavaliers.
No question about it. And that the latter statement that you made a second ago, I think that may be the route they take.
Very well.
With how they look at this 20th pick.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think it could be I can see some Cavalier wheeling and dealing going on in and around draft night.
Now, what they can't trade the pick, but they can pick a player and then trade the player because of the Stepien rule. So, that's what they would have to do. So
that's right.
At least they got the ball rolling. They finally named their coach, whether we agree or disagree with it. Only time will tell if it was the right move. Now let's see what happens with Mitchell and all the other dominoes that start to fall.
I understand it, Ken. To finish up this segment, I understand the hiring of Kenny Atkinson. Yeah. I do, because there has been a modicum of success there with what he's done. And I think player development may have won out over team record. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hey, one other thing I'll throw your way. All right, because JT and I talked about this. Did you see the contract extension that Scotty Barnes is getting in Toronto today?
No, I didn't. No.
Scotty Barnes is going, and he was picked one pick after Evan Mobley, right? 2022 draft, was the rookie of the year, was an all-star this past year. He is in line to make in the neighborhood of $270 million with escalators. He's guaranteed $225 million. And then with escalators, about $270 million. So that's another thing that will come into play with Evan Mobley, right? Being in the same draft class and one pick ahead of, Scotty Barnes. Now you got to start wondering about his contract extension. And will the Cavaliers try and get that done this offseason too? Because if you're talking 270 with escalators for Barnes, bump that up another 10 million, probably for about 280 for Evan Mobley. Right?
Damn, ain't life grand. Mamas and daddies, grow those babies up to be NBA players.
Unbelievable.
And you're set for life.
And Donovan Mitchell's going to get about $210 million. So, like I said, the first of many dominoes to fall this offseason.
Yeah. And Scotty Barnes, I mean, no disrespect. He's okay player.
Let me ask you this.
He's good.
Would you trade him straight up for Evan Mobley? Knowing what you need for the Cavaliers at that 2-3 position, right? And you already have Jared Allen to fall back on if you want to, protect the rim. Would you give up Barnes or Mobley for Barnes in Toronto?
I can't do it, Kenny. I can't give up 6'11" with again, fingers crossed.
Mm-hmm.
What we hope is this continuing rise in upside.
Right.
For Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. We saw him start to extend the floor and shoot the three last year.
All right.
I'm not saying it was great,
Right.
But it was a start.
Yep.
So I can't give up 6'11" with a guy that I think legitimately could average 17 and 10 for you, right? You got Donovan Mitchell on there, but I think Mobley averaging 17 and 10 is realistic.
Reg, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
You go get Scotty Barnes.
If I could trade Evan Mobley straight up for Scotty Barnes based on the way the league is today, what the East is made up of, and you already have Jared Allen, who's still young, right?
Yeah.
I roll me out, Scotty Barnes, and then I'm also looking, with the possibility of trading DG too, because I roll me out Scotty Barnes and Donovan Mitchell, I would, but that's never going to happen. I'm just saying that's the type of player I think the Cavaliers need to somehow, some way put a deal together for and go get via trade if they don't have the salary cap money to go sign somebody like a Miles Bridges or somebody of that ilk that's a free agent.
Yeah, no, I got you. I understand. There's a lot of very juicy possibilities out there, aren't there, for the Cavaliers?
Yeah, there are, my friend.
We'll be all over it all during the summer to see which direction the organization goes.
All right, this direction is going to a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to talk some Guardians baseball. As we were taping this on a Monday night, the Gardos just went to the Orioles and beat them at Camden Yards 3-2 to get their 50th win of the season. When we return, we'll talk some Cleveland Guardians baseball next on the R&R podcast, right here on the Press Play Podcast Network, powered by Cleveland Party Rentals and Newark Auto Body.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, everybody. Always want to tell you about our good friends at Cleveland Party Rentals. They're your go-to for memorable events and parties. Now, their approach is very simple. As I've been telling you, they treat your event as exactly as if it were their very own. So they're going to help you alleviate all the stress of the event coordination that you so often get. This way, you see, you can savor the moments that matter. They're dedicated to offering you pricing that's clear and completely free from hidden fees. And that's coupled with one of the most robust cancellation policies in the industry in case maybe you get a change in plans, right? That happens once in a while. They have a tailgate package I want to tell you about. You can lock in your games for the season or even put your Super Bowl party together in the summer so you're ready to go in February. Here's what you get. High-quality outdoor screen and projector with immersive sound, double bowl frozen drink machine, a popcorn machine, 2-tap beer jockey box. You get a front row seat. Everybody gets that. It allows you to unleash the ultimate entertainment experience. That game day bundle I just told you about, I know you heard me. It's a complete package that transforms your backyard into a cinematic and gaming paradise. Here's the best part. Ready for this now? Get ready to write this down. Listeners, all of our Reghi and Roda podcast listeners, use code CLEPartiesRock. I'll spell that for you. CLEPARTIESROCK for 10% off your booking. Do it now at Cleveland Party Rentals.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey gang, the Roadman Kenny Roda here from the R&R podcast. If you've been in an accident, first of all, I hope you're okay. Secondly, if you are and your car's not, then guess what? You need to look no further than Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body. Why? They're safe, they're reliable, their collision repairs are what they do best. It's their business. They are located in Newark and in Zanesville, and they are a local family-run and veteran-owned business serving those areas, Newark, Zanesville, and the surrounding areas. And how about this? They work with all the insurance providers to make your experience hassle-free. You're already down in the dumps because your car is dinged up, right? You don't need a hassle from the insurance company. That's the other great thing about them. Plus, you can ask about their special discounts for U.S. military veterans. You want to check them out online? Here's where you go. autobodyofnewark.com or autobodyofzanesville.com. And to get your repair started today, instead of checking them out online, pick up the phone, do it the old-fashioned way. Call 740-899-4111 and tell them Reghi and Roda sent you.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we continue with the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And a shout out to our sponsors, Cleveland Party Rentals and Newark Auto Body. Thanks for jumping on board with us here at the R&R podcast, as well as everybody with Press Play Podcast Networks. Thanks to Ty Courts, our outstanding producer, and Michael. Cleveland Guardians won game number 50 tonight as we're taping this. They are now 50-26. They have won 50 of their first 76 games. If you would have told me that, Michael Reghi, before the season started, I said, Reg, you been to the doctor lately? You need to go get checked, buddy. If you would have told me that, all right, you better, no way they win 50 of the first 76 games. And yet here they are without Shane Bieber, right? Without Gavin Williams, two of their core members of that starting rotation. And they just went into Baltimore. It was one of the best teams in all of baseball, right? and beat them 3-2 tonight on a Jose Ramirez sixth inning solo shot. And they didn't even use Clase tonight, as you told me. Scooter Magoots comes in and gets the save because Clase had been used 3 nights in a row.
Partner number 1, there's no way in hell I would have even thought of mentioning that to you, that going to be looking close to the halfway mark in this 162-game Major League Baseball marathon that they call a regular season. No way in hell at 50-26 after 76. And yet, here they are, Stephen Vogt, and evidently everybody calls him Voter now.
Voter.
That's all I hear is Voter. Oh, Voter. Well, I tell you what, Voter has really impressed me because he's done a hell of a managing job with this baseball team, and he's understated, Stephen Vogt. He certainly, doesn't have the high profile of a Terry Francona, nowhere near it. The man's done a terrific job, and this baseball team has a very strong chance to be very, very close, if not supersede triple digits and 100 wins to push themselves into October baseball and the playoffs, Kenny Roda. And look, I mean, hey, we've done nothing better than October baseball. When you win and when things, the shadows get long early and the sun starts going down, by the time, here on the East Coast, you play at 7 o'clock at night. That's baseball, man. And if you can get yourself to that position, and give yourself a chance, right, in October, hey, I mean, this is exactly what the Cleveland Guardians, I mean, this is what we all have expected out of them because they've done this over the course of the last 20 years. But I didn't know if it was going to happen with Stephen Vogt, Kenny, but he's doing a tremendous job. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Manager of the year so far in Major League Baseball, no question in my mind. I guess the approach was there's already something established here from what Tito put together. We're going to leave that foundation here, but we're going to change a few things here and there with the way I want to do things, be more aggressive early in the count. We're seeing them do that. And Reg, coming into tonight's game, here's the other thing. If you would have told me this, I would have thought you were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You ready for this? They were dead last in home runs last year in Major League Baseball, right?
Yes.
They are 9th in Major League Baseball going into tonight's game in home runs, and Jose hit one to win it. So they've jumped up from 30 to number 9. They're in the top third instead of being dead last in power numbers, home run numbers. And Stephen Kwan, the pinball wizard, for everybody out there, if you have not read Zach Meisel's article in The Athletic about Stephen Kwan and how a pinball game might have something to do with his hitting ability at the major league level, you need to read that article. One of the best writers in the country is Zach Meisel, and he's done a fabulous job on a number of stories this year, and that's the latest. Stephen Kwan is an all-star. Jose Ramirez is an all-star. Emmanuel Clase is an all-star, and I could make a case also for Josh Naylor as an all-star for this team as we get close to the Midsummer Classic, as our late great friend Bill Needle used to hate me calling it, the Midsummer Classic in baseball. God rest his soul. Love you, Jugdish.
Yes, God rest his soul is right. I can hear our good buddy saying that too, chastising us for using that term. Yes.
But those 4 right there, Reg, deserving of being all-stars, 3 for sure. Kwan, Ramirez, and Clase. Clase, 3-1, 072 earned run average, 24 of 27 saves. Guy's almost unhittable. So he's an all-star. And Ramirez just hit his 20th bomb of the year to tie Josh Naylor for top honors on the squad. So, and Kwan was at 390 before the night started. If he goes 1 for 4, I think he loses like 3 points on his. Hell, if he even goes 2 for 4, he might. So it's just been a fun season. And JT and I have been down to the ballpark numerous times this year to watch this team, and we enjoy the way they play from start to finish. They never quit.
No, they don't. It has been a lot of fun. I was down there this past homestand, went and they're an enjoyable baseball team to watch. And again, everybody that Stephen Vogt pencils into that lineup seems to make an impression. Daniel Schneemann now getting an opportunity to play a little bit, like the way he swings the bat, left-handed hitter, Kenny, and, puts the ball in play. And it seems like their aggressiveness, entire team, but especially this hitting offense, the aggressiveness has served them very, very well. And the way they've pitched without Shane Bieber to me is pretty damn impressive. You said it though, when you got a Class A that can turn the lights out in the ninth inning in one-run games.
Yep,
that's big time.
Well, it's not just Class A too. Scott Barlow, Hunter Gaddis, Jim Herron, Cade Smith. That bullpen is the best in baseball, and that's helped pick up the slack or the lack of starting pitching that they were getting. Although they got 6 out of Bybee tonight. So in 4 of their last 5 starts, Reg, their starters have gone 6 games. And that's what they need. They need the starters
6
to go
innings.
deeper. Yep.
Give me 6.
Yep. And the last report I got on Gavin Williams was best outing so far in his rehab starts this past weekend in Akron. He went 5 innings, 66 pitches, 4 strikeouts, no walks, 4 hits, 1 run. His velo topped out at 98 miles an hour and no setbacks. So that discomfort in his elbow, hopefully, will not bother him anymore, and that he'll be up in that starting rotation in place of Carlos Carrasco or Tristan McKenzie or somebody in the not too distant future.
Yeah, well, hopefully maybe that becomes reality in it would be about 3 weeks after the All-Star game. I agree with you. Tristan McKenzie has disappointed me a little bit in his inability to take this team deep into a game of late from the starting pitching side. And so I think you bringing up Gavin Williams, that's going to be critical that he comes back. And who knows? It could possibly be to take Tristan McKenzie's spot. McKenzie's going to have to, pick himself up, and I think in his next few starts, in order to make everybody feel good about where he is as part of the rotation.
Reg, I don't want to be too hard on Sticks, but I've got to give him credit because I don't think he's 100% and he's trying to pitch through it.
Yeah.
So he's at least giving them innings and giving them a chance to win. So kudos to that kid for, the guts he's showing. But, when you lead the majors in home runs given up and walks, that's not a good combination. Or at least the American League, I should say, in home runs given up and walks given up as a starting pitcher. That's eventually going to get you caught, right? That's going to rear its ugly head at some point. But give them credit.
Right. You usually don't keep winning that way.
Yeah.
That's the daily double on the bad side for a starting pitcher. Walks and bombs.
That's it.
That'll get you off the mound real quick.
One leads to the other. You walk a guy, got a pitch from the stretch, worried about the runner, leave one up, 2-run shot, and you're shaking your head. So how about the bullpen tonight? Herron, Gaddis, and Barlow, 3 shutout innings, no hits, no runs, nothing across. As there's a fly ball down the right field line. It could be fair. It could be foul. It is. Herb Score used to say back in the day, God rest his soul.
Yes.
But the bullpen doing its job and Bybee doing his and Jose doing what Jose does. Bro, home run pitch. And he went yard today, and that gets them their 50th win of the season. And coming into tonight's game, they were 7.5 up on Minnesota, 9 up on Kansas City in the Central Division. So,
all right, let me ask you something, man. At this point now, we're almost at the halfway point, right?
Yeah.
Almost at the halfway point for everything we just laid out.
Yes.
All the 99% positives about this team.
Yeah.
What do you envision as the finality of the regular season, and what will it take? Is it going to take playing in the World Series, regardless of outcome, for you to be satisfied with this year?
No. because I had no expectations of the playoffs this year, let alone the World Series. I had them being under 500, not even making the playoffs this year. First-year manager, not just first-year manager in Stephen Vogt, first time ever at any level manager, Stephen Vogt, right?
Yep.
McKenzie and Bieber both with questionable elbows and arms and shoulders, and one's already down for the year, okay? No big name acquisitions to the offense other than Austin Hedges, and he's, a backup catcher.
That's right.
I had no expectations. So winning the division, making the playoffs, doing whatever they do, that's going to be playing with house money for me.
Okay.
If they end up winning the division. And now, do I want them to be happy with that? Hell no. I want them before July 30th to go out and get themselves another veteran starting pitcher and another right-handed bat that has some experience to add to this roster. I don't want to count on Jonathan Rodriguez, to be that right-handed bat off the bench in pinch hit situations or in the outfield against lefties. I want that veteran right-handed bat, but if I could only have one or the other, go get me the starting pitcher, Reg, and make him like a 3 or a 4 guy in my rotation where I can, count on him every 5th day as my number 3 starter. That's what I would like Antonetti and Cherney to do.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely doable. It's certainly logical. I would go there first as well. Especially knowing that, you said it. I think a lot probably thought it's going to be a death knell without Shane Bieber for the year. They managed to work around that, and at times an ineffective Tristan McKenzie. So if you can go out and get that starting pitcher, again, doesn't have to be the ace. You're right. Doesn't have to be the ace. It can be a 3-4.
Yep.
But a guy that's going to go out there and give you the capabilities to give you 6 innings, keep you in the game. What's the old axiom in baseball, Kenny? Give me 6 innings, 3 runs or less, and we'll feel good about what we can do, especially with a good bullpen and an offense that has the propensity to win tight games late. That's all we're talking about here.
Reg.
We're not talking about a guy that's got to come in here and, be Garrett Cole, and be the ace of a staff. We're not, and that's not necessarily what's needed here. So hopefully, Chris Antonetti's a guy that usually comes up with those kind of moves, right?
Yes, he does. He's not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'll even take a 5 and fly guy, Reg. Give me 5. Give me 5 2-run innings. You know what I mean? 2 runs total in 5 innings, and then turn it over to the best bullpen in baseball. And I'll take that out of my number 3 starter late in the season and in the postseason. So, is this a perfect team? No, but they play in a division that actually is pretty good this year. So they're going to be challenged there. It's not over, even though they're now up actually 8. Minnesota's off tonight, so they pick up a half game.
Yeah.
So it's going to take them playing at least 500 baseball or better the rest of the way to win this division. And I did the numbers, Reg. If they just go 43 and 43 the rest of the way in the remaining 86 games, that's 93 and 69. That'll win them the Central Division if they
no
get
doubt it will.
Wins.
That's right. Yeah. So playing 500 baseball. Now they want to see better than that, of course. But what Kenny just proposes, if even a 500 baseball team with what they've done in the first half, they've given themselves that kind of cushion that'll be able to deal with that should it turn into a second half that is only of 500 style baseball. So I think they're in a real good position. I got to, again, I'd never thought they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
They are a team that, they don't necessarily got all the big names and guys with all the huge contracts and guys that if you don't get just monumental production from them, you can't win. That's not how they're built. And in this day and age, Kenny, it's kind of refreshing to see, quite honestly.
Reg, if our listeners out there haven't done it yet, CLEguardians.com/vote. I think you have until Thursday for the All-Star game to go out and vote for Stephen Kwan. They were handing out this paraphernalia as you were exiting the ballpark last week. These wanted Stephen Kwan All-Star Game 2024. So go online, vote for Jose, vote for Stephen Kwan, vote for Josh Naylor. Emmanuel Clase, you have no say in. So go get those 3 Guardians in there along with Clase will be picked by the skipper. And it'll be nice to see Cleveland well represented in this year's Midsummer Classic.
Kenny, how about Stephen Kwan? Man, if you told me that this guy is going to be a 397 hitter, almost halfway, then I know he's missed a little bit of time. Right. But look, be that as it may, this guy, he could have played in any era with his approach and the way that he goes about his business at the plate. He'll take pitches the other way as a left-handed hitter. He works pitchers and works counts. He's a threat if he gets on base to steal a bag. He plays a very solid left field. And again, here he is at almost 400. Come on now. Look, if this guy, Kenny, if he could drive, if he hits 350, right, 340 on the year. Yeah. And think of that's going to be a few offers but again, when you say if he falls close to 50 points and still is a 340 hitter, right, well, he's going to win the American League hitting championship. And I really love watching the kid, the young man. He really is impressive. Very impressive.
Shohei Ohtani's hitting 322, I think. Stephen Kwan, after tonight's 1-for-3 night with a walk, dropped to 389. He went 1-for-3 in his average drop. Right?
Oh, that's right.
That's a bad night for him.
1-for-3 is going to take you down a couple of points. That's only 333. That's 60 points away from where you're hitting.
Right.
So you're going to lose a couple of points.
Yeah. So kudos to him. And like we said, fun team to watch. Watch them in person. If you got Bally's, you can watch them there. Go see them at the ball. Hey, Reg, before we get out of here, shout out to Curtis Danberg and everybody in the marketing department. They're doing a fabulous job. Not only you get good baseball to watch down there, they had Shaq Diesel.
How about
DJ
that?
In the after party on Saturday night at Progressive Field. It was Josh Naylor bobblehead day on his birthday there. Friday night, they're giving away T-shirts. The boom boom goes crazy on Friday night with the fireworks. Reg, in the 3-game weekend series against Toronto, 100,480 people. They averaged 33.5 a game in that series. Okay. Yeah. And 176,000 for the 6-game homestand. So fans are starting to show up and support this team, and you should, because number one, they're in first place, and number two, they're fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, and again, you mentioned Curtis Danberg does a tremendous job as part of the marketing and PR staff that he oversees and game day operations each and every day. And, it's good to see. It's good to see strong professional people like that are a part of this Guardians organization be successful. So happy for Curtis Danberg and all that is on his staff, as we said, marketing, PR, game day operations, because they've done it the right way and they don't get away from what they believe is correct. Now, they have no control over what players are paid, right? That's not part of what they do day to day. But the whole organization is extremely impressive for how they put Guardians baseball out for the fan base.
They do. Bobby DiBiasio has been there forever, overseeing a lot of all of that. Bart Swain's been in the media relations department forever. Court Berry Tripp and Austin, those guys do a fabulous job. So it's a lot of fun for us being down there for the Kenny and JT show. We try and make it down there twice a month pregame. And we're looking forward to getting back there more times in the regular season and the postseason this year to see this Guardians team hopefully do some damage.
It's great that you guys get that opportunity to do so with WHBC. Good stuff.
Oh, this was good stuff here tonight too, Reg. Cavaliers got a new coach, Kenny Atkinson. We'll see how that plays out. And the Guardians are in first place. That's a good way to end this sucker today.
Yeah, it is a good way to end it off another win against a very good baseball team. As we said, don't sleep on the Baltimore Orioles, the O's, man, in Charm City. For me, if the Guardians and O's matched up in October, save maybe for the ALCS, wow, winner goes to the World Series. Kenny would love it. Love it, because to me, they're two of the three best teams in the American League. Those two and the Yankees.
Yep, right now I agree with you 100%. All right, Reg, we'll do this again next week, and we're hopeful that Phil Steele is going to join us next week, right?
Our college football guru. Nobody does it better than him. Yes, we'll look to have Phil Steele on as we'll get into the month of July, Kenny, or close to it.
Right.
And really, college football is really starting to get closer and closer, isn't it?
It sure is. Can't wait to do that with Phil and talk college football with you, Reg. Great job as always. Shout out to our producer, Ty Court's fabulous.
Way to go, Ty. Way to go.
Making sure everybody in the podcastsphere gets to hear the R&R podcast. And again, a shout out to Cleveland Party Rentals and Newark Auto Body for sponsoring the R&R podcast. We'll talk to you next time on the Reghi and Roda podcast.